I will put my record up against anyone in terms of the work I have always done and will always do to ensure we have a secure border. When I am elected president, I will bring back that border security bill and I will sign it into law.
Is everybody ready to turn Pennsylvania red?
Donald Trump has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. I urge you to look at Project 2025 and you will see.
She has not done well for our economy. She has opened our borders. She is soft on crime, and her cohort wants to put tampons in boys' bathrooms.
It is incredibly important, and I know you and I can see you are a patriot, that we have the President of the United States who honors the oath that they take to support the Constitution of the United States. Donald Trump has said he will be a dictator on day one.
Well, folks, Kamala Harris has received devastating news from CNN, and CNN can no longer hide this anymore from the American people.
But I will say, if you've been paying attention to social media or reporting on CNN, Democrats seem particularly worried now. Why?
I think that this is really the type of thing that gets Democrats really to worry, John, because the simple fact is Kamala Harris is doing considerably worse than either Biden or Clinton was. Yeah.
Wow. So Joy Behar is essentially calling Donald Trump, well, really, Joy Behar and Dr. Phil are calling Donald Trump a narcissist. And not only that, but they're actually attacking Donald Trump's daughter.
Therapists, a lot of respected psychologists out there, really big time, big names, are saying that Donald Trump is showing signs of narcissism, which, by the way, one of the symptoms is preoccupied with the fantasies of unlimited power, success, and brilliance. And they're questioning that he has narcissistic disorder. Number one, do you think that's a mental illness, narcissism? And if so, is he fit to be president?
Well, Counselor, that's a compound question.
Guys, this is crazy. You have to watch Kamala's desperate response. I mean, Kamala Harris is being put on the spot here. This is, I mean, we've already seen Barack Obama jump on stage trying to defend Kamala Harris and why she should be president of the United States. By the way, Barack Obama seems to think that he's king of black people. All black people should listen to Barack Obama, whatever he says. According to Barack Obama, Donald Trump is basically like a white supremacist, and he's the worst thing for the middle class. Donald Trump is the worst thing for black people, according to Barack Obama. But if you guys really want me to go in and show you what Barack Obama did on stage in a recent live, definitely check that out. You can click on my channel, go to the live tab and check that one out. But here, what we're about to witness here, guys, is a voter asking Kamala Harris about how she managed to get nominated without even earning a single vote, ultimately pushing Joe Biden aside in this very, very close election at the last minute. Now, obviously, Jill Biden was probably sitting at the edge of her seat as she listened to, as she awaited Kamala Harris's response on this one. But listen to how Kamala Harris responds to this voter asking about how she got nominated without getting a single vote. Check it out.
Right now, leaning towards Trump, but I haven't made a decision. I'm also concerned about the way I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
And so close to the elections, I believe these are extraordinary circumstances. How can you clarify this whole process and how you were elected?
Sure. And first of all, thank you for being so candid and allowing me to answer the question. Thank you. President Biden made a decision that I think history will show was probably one of the most courageous that a president could make, which is he decided to put country above his personal interest. And he made that decision. He within that same period of time, supported my candidacy and urged me to run. He and I have been partners for the last 4 years as his vice president, to him as the president. And I am honored to have earned the Democratic nomination. I am honored to have the endorsement of people from every walk of life. You will probably find that I probably have a bigger coalition of people who couldn't seem to be more different than each other, who have come together around my candidacy. From 200 Republicans who worked with and for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, including Liz Cheney, the former Congresswoman, and her father, the former Vice President, Dick Cheney, who was supporting me. Former members, very esteemed members, including generals of the national security community. I have the endorsement and support of Alberto Gonzalez, most recently, who of course was Attorney General. I have the support of people from every background, and I believe this is the reason why. It is incredibly important, and I know you and I can see you are a patriot, that we have the President of the United States who honors the oath that they take to support the Constitution of the United States. There is a huge contrast in this election. Donald Trump has said he will be a dictator on day one.
I felt right there, just before she said Donald Trump, leading up to this, I was like, she's setting up for the attack on Donald Trump. But watch this.
Many people come from backgrounds and countries of origin, and we know what that means when you're talking about someone who wants to be president of the United States and wants to be a dictator, and what that means in terms of taking freedoms from their people. Donald Trump has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. I urge you to look at Project 2025, and you will see he will strip the Department of Justice of its independence and put in and hire across the board, instead of career public servants, his people.
Now, something I think is rather interesting here, we always hear about this Project 2025. Well, and they're always, and it's funny, like this is like another play out of the Marxist playbook. We always hear about, a lot of the Democrats, specifically Kamala Harris, and a number of other Democrats, news stations, all of them are seemingly pinning Project 2025 on Donald Trump. And every time I hear from Donald Trump, he denies knowing anything about it. He says that he has intentionally not read anything up on it. I think he probably should, just so that he knows what he's up against. But the other thing is that we've heard from high-ranking officials within Project 2025 who essentially say that Donald Trump has had nothing to do with Project 2025, and that according to the essential the laws that surround the bodies that surround Project 2025, Donald Trump can't even be involved, even if they wanted to, because of the type of organization that they are. So I think that was rather interesting. But before that, she mentioned how she says Donald Trump would ultimately weaponize the DOJ. Donald Trump would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political opponent. Now, I just told you, and you guys likely already know this, that this is a play out of the Marxist playbook. How when you do one thing, how one party does a particular act, but then you blame the other, you blame your opponent on having done that very same thing that you're doing, right? So that's like Marxist strategy and tactic right there, right? So where have we seen a great example of that playing out that we could all reference for the sake of this conversation, right? Well, we don't have to look very far. Look at the last 10 months of this year. Here we are. This is like October 12th, 2024. What have we seen? We've seen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris weaponize the Department of Justice, the DOJ, against Donald Trump. How so? Well, where did all of these cases come from that Donald Trump suddenly had to defend himself against the moment he decided to announce that he was going to be running for president of the United States for 2024? Well, we initially saw it at the beginning of the year when Fani Willis and Nathan Wade decided to charge Donald Trump with election interference in the Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia case, as well as 18 other co-defendants in that particular case. We Okay, so it's like, wow, where did that come from? Suddenly, there was this urgency to basically criminalize and ultimately attempt to jail Donald Trump, but at a minimum, at least get him off the campaign trail and throw him in a courtroom so that he cannot campaign while this trial went on. So that's one instance of the Democrats using the DOJ, effectively weaponizing the Department of Justice against their own political candidate, which is exactly what Kamala Harris is claiming that Donald Trump will do going forward, which has yet to be proven. Number two, look at the case with Letitia James, Arthur Engeron attacking Donald Trump in New York. We all remember this major $454 million lawsuit that Arthur Engeron, who normally wouldn't even preside over a case like this, and this also proves like how manipulated the justice system has been against Donald Trump. Many attorneys and respected third parties have reviewed the case details, and even other judges have said, why is Judge Arthur Engeron even presiding over this case? He's not capable, he's not experienced, and he's not effectively qualified to even preside over a case like this. We've heard from Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, basically saying, hey, look, we're going to be appealing this thing. This is ridiculous. They kept attacking Donald Trump, and it was a major smear campaign. They talked about it for weeks. It got to a point where even truckers were refusing to deliver goods to New York because they're just tired of the scams. They were tired of this massive problem, this massive level of corruption that was taking place in New York, right? That's example number two. And the list goes on and on and on. I mean, let's not forget about the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. You had Judge Juan Merchan presiding over that. You had DA Alvin Bragg. You had the liar Michael Cohen, who was Donald Trump's former attorney, who ultimately ended up serving a significant amount of jail time for lying under oath. All of these trials in 2024, it was unbelievable. And Kamala Harris has the nerve to jump on Univision and lie directly to this man's face about what Donald Trump's going to do when they're doing it right now, guys. Then let's not forget about Jack Smith, who decided to file this classified documents case against Donald Trump in Florida, which ultimately went as high as the Supreme Court to overrule Jack Smith and effectively the validation of his claims. The Supreme Court has basically put the Supreme Court has essentially ruled that Donald Trump should have legal protections as the decisions and the actions that he made were protected as he was president at the time. Ultimately, the documents that Donald Trump allegedly had were delivered or shipped to him by the White House, by the Joe Biden administration. And then they later blamed him for having these documents that they shipped to him. It was a complete setup. It was another smear job campaign. And it almost irks me to watch this happen because they're literally committing these crimes, treason, and I feel like there's not enough media coverage on this. And yet they blame Donald Trump. Oh, this is what Donald Trump's going to do. But you don't really know what Donald Trump's going to do. But what we can know for sure is what we're watching you do. And these guys are actually doing what they're trying to say that Donald Trump will do if he gets into office. So what's the more likely scenario? More of the same, which is what they're doing, or Donald Trump coming in and draining the swamp? Y'all let me know. You know, what's crazy is I used to think I could do it on my own, all by myself. But after years of spinning my wheels, I realized something was missing. It wasn't more hustle or more effort. It was the right people. Then all of a sudden, one day, I connected with somebody who had already achieved the success that I was actually striving for. And suddenly, everything changed. That's the power of your network. Inside the Life Pursuit Network, you'll find people who have been exactly where you are now and have risen to the top. They've already learned lessons and they've paved the way, and now they're ready to help you do the same. Join us right now. Click the link down below and unlock the potential of a powerful network of people that can change your life. But act fast because spots are limited.
Who are his loyalists. Donald Trump said he would, and I'm using a quotation, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
Now, that's another falsehood. This was actually debunked numerous times, that Donald Trump never actually said he would terminate the United States. This was never said, but and this was debunked so many times. But what's really frustrating here is that although this was proven that Donald Trump, it was literally proven that Donald Trump never said those words. The Kamala Harris and a lot of Kamala Harris supporters will continue to repeat what has been known to be wrong, what has been known to be misconstrued. And you want to talk about misinformation? They're the king and queen of disseminating misinformation over and over and over again.
The Constitution of the United States. Imagine the Constitution of the United States, which guarantees the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure by a government on you. The Fifth Amendment.
Wait a second here, Kamala Harris. She is now, this is again, Marxist tactics, guys. She is saying that the Fourth Amendment prevents unlawful search and seizure into your homes and whatnot. Show of hands, guys. Show of hands. How many of you guys remember Kamala Harris getting on camera and saying that basically she will come into your locked homes and check for guns that you have?
Responsible behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs. Have you heard from?
She just talked about First Amendment. I think she might have mentioned the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. And she just mentioned the Fourth Amendment. So it's like she has openly just admitted that she's willing to violate constitutional amendments number 2 and number 4. She want to take your guns away, guys. She claims that, I own a gun. I own a Glock. This is what Kamala Harris says. That don't mean anything. She says that due to the line of work that she's in, she has to own her gun, or she chooses to own a gun, whatever the word salad that she decided to spill out that day said. But Tim Walz claims he owns a gun. He probably owns like a 22 or something, like BB gun. But it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy that she has literally gone on camera and said that she will come in your homes. Maybe not her specifically. I doubt she's going to come into your locked home and look for guns. But she will send out some government agency, some letter, ABC government letter organization to go up in your house and check for guns. How is that constitutional? Are we still in America, guys? Like, you really got to ask yourself, what direction are we going here? And I mean, are we going in the right direction here? Seriously. And what's deeply disturbing is that all these people are just they look like they're listening to her and they're taking her word as gospel. And she's just boldly lying to them in their faces. We only have a few weeks, guys. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys. Also consider subscribing to the channel. Make sure your notification bell's turned on. If you want to take a little step further, you can join us over in our Patreon community. Or if you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link in the description down below. In the description of this video down below, guys.
The Sixth Amendment. So I believe that the stakes right now are extraordinarily high and potentially, some might say, historians have said, unprecedented. And so maybe the whole situation, including your point, is a bit unprecedented. But this is an unusual time where we are literally having a choice as the American people about choosing a path, either that is about rule of law, democracy, or something that is about admiring dictators and autocracy. Did you see the most recent report about the COVID? We talked about COVID, the COVID test.
This is absurd, guys. This is absurd. I feel like the biggest dictators are already in office. The biggest dictators, in my opinion, are already in office, and that's the dangerous and scary part.
Is everybody ready to turn Pennsylvania red? It most certainly looks red to me right now. What a good group, you guys. We have seen the beautiful Kamala Harris for 1,400 days in the White House.
The beautiful Kamala Harris.
Cannot articulate for us what her policies are. And that's because she doesn't have any. No, I should take that back. She's now adopting my favorite president's policies. She is anti-fracking. She has not done well for our economy. She has opened our borders. She is soft on crime. And her cohort wants to put tampons in boys' bathrooms.
Let's not forget about the fact that they want to have men punch women in the face. They want to have men in women's sports. How is that okay, guys?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am a MAGA woman with babies, and that ain't happening. So where I come from, when you fail at your job for 1,400 days, you don't get another 1,460 days.
Not only that, she wants a promotion.
And if you ever have any doubts about her position on her performance, her review on The View yesterday, she said she wouldn't change a damn thing.
Guys, and the crazy thing about this, and nobody's actually talking about this, I'm actually glad Alina Habba brought this up. No one really is calling out the fact that The View asked her a very specific question about what she would do differently compared to Joe Biden in her presidency if she became president of the United States. She word saladed her way in responding to the question on The View, but then Sunny Hostin asked her again the same question because it was clear that the first time she asked it, she never got an answer. Unbelievable, guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying so, Kamala. But the American people decide who gets promoted. And you are not getting promoted. You are fired. Let's win.
Get her out of there.
I will put my record up against anyone in terms of the work I have always done and will always do to ensure we have a secure border. When I am elected president, I will bring back that border security bill and I will sign it into law.
She's acknowledging she was in charge. My policy, my border security, my. You caught that, right?
Wow. Harrison Faulkner is literally blowing the lid off of this one here, guys. And Kamala Harris is the same woman who all of a sudden, because the numbers, the data, the reports are just so blatantly just atrocious. She's declining to accept the role, the title that has been assigned to her by Joe Biden, that she is the border czar. Why? Well, the reason is because what she's done has been so horrific for America, and she can no longer hide it.
All you need to know, though, is one number, 206. That's the percentage. 206% the jump in illegal immigrant encounters at our southern border. People are
This is not what you need to hear. This is not the data that you want coming out just weeks before the 2024 presidential election. And this is why Kamala Harris is trying to hide. This is why she hide. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the major facts that she's trying to hide from the American people today here, folks.
Encounters at our southern border. People are flowing over, and it's exploded by 206% under the watch of Biden and Kamala Harris. A new op-ed with the title, Harris's Media Blitz of Border Security, Lies and Deceit. That's a quote, a headline. Congressman Byron Donalds, Republican of Florida, he is also a Trump surrogate. What do you make of all of this?
What I make is that Kamala Harris really has nowhere to go. Her administration destroyed our southern border. They've let almost more than 10 million illegal immigrants into our country. And it didn't really have to be this way, Harris. When Kamala Harris and Joe Biden came in, they signed 94 executive orders getting rid of all of Donald Trump's border security policies. It was stupid then. It's terrible now. The results have been disastrous. The only way to fix it is by electing Donald Trump, because she's not going to change the border procedures. She's going to go back to what they did for the first 3 years of this administration. The only reason why Joe Biden did this amnesty, this amnesty shutdown over the last 6 months is simply because of the election. No other reasons. And now she's trying to run around saying she signed a Senate bill. The Senate bill was terrible. She never would have got a vote in the House of Representatives.
You know, it's interesting that you call it an amnesty shutdown, because they adjusted the numbers of the people coming across, and then they exploded in a couple of different programs to bring people in the air. And we didn't know that was north of 1.5 million until just recently.
They were flying people in on military aircraft, trying to hide the number of illegal immigrants entering the country. Wow. Now, just think about the number, the level of the amount of inside coordination that had to be implemented to even allow that to kind of happen. You know what I mean? Like, this was a coordinated effort and overall deceit of the American people.
So there are even more people we don't necessarily know that much about where they might be right now. And there's no way they're vetting that many when they couldn't do it at the border. So it's like having the border in the sky.
Wow, guys. Wow. The truth is absolutely coming out, and it can no longer be hidden. 2024, Cat Williams, I don't know if you guys saw that Cat Williams interview with Club Shay Shay, and he was talking about Diddy and 50 Cent and what's his name? The Steve Harvey, all of these folks and their hidden antics. Cat Williams said, 2024, the truth is coming out. The lies will no longer be kept a secret. And so far, Cat Williams' predictions coming true.
3.5 years ago, right? Kamala has already cost the typical family $29,000 with her horrible inflation and the cost of inflation. Yet she said this week, when asked the question, that she can't think of one thing she could do differently, right? So, you know what? Take a look at the video. We're going to talk about that. Take a look, not one thing. Take a look at this.
Could you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
Gut-wrenching new details in the Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the is a Venezuelan national who crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with and the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A fifth illegal immigrant accused of Two New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Only 18% said the economy is in excellent or good condition. US inflation has hit a new 40-year high, increasing by 9.1% over the financial year.
The cost of homes have spiked. Home buyers need to earn 80% more than they did in 2020 to afford a house.
Unbelievable, guys. Unfreaking real.
If you take out everybody that has any of those characteristics, then you're going to take out a lot of people, including some at this table.
That look on Joy's face is a telltale sign that she knows Dr. Phil is calling her out.
So,
Do y'all need a minute?
No, that's all right.
No, she's got to ask you this question.
Yeah, I
She's
got to
been
ask
burning.
you this question because though they can't diagnose anybody, from afar, somebody that they haven't examined, doctors, therapists, a lot of respected psychologists out there, really big names, are saying that Donald Trump is showing signs of narcissism, which, by the way, one of the symptoms is preoccupied with the fantasies of unlimited power, success, and brilliance. And they're questioning that he has narcissistic disorder. Number one, do you think that's a mental illness, narcissism? And if so, is he fit to be president?
Well, Counselor, that's a compound question, and I object. But, people talk about narcissism, but they don't really know what it means. So I brought a list from the DSM-5 about what narcissism really is, because if I asked people to stand up and define it, they wouldn't know.
All right.
And let's just take a vote. One has a grandiose sense of self-importance.
Check.
Check. Okay.
Next.
Two is preoccupied with fantasies of success, power, or brilliance, which you said. Check. Okay. Three, believes that he or she is special or unique.
Check.
Can only be understood by special people. Four, requires excessive admiration.
Oh, check.
Has a sense of entitlement, which means is very thin-skinned. If you're
check.
Is interpersonally exploitive. Lacks empathy. Has the inability to stand in other people's shoes and understand.
You mean like when he makes fun of...
Wow. So Joy Behar is essentially calling Donald Trump, Joy Behar and Dr. Phil are calling Donald Trump a narcissist. And not only that, but they're actually attacking Donald Trump's daughter. Can you believe this? This is like a new level of low to attack a presidential candidate's daughter, their offspring, their child, their children. Wow. Is there no end to the Democratic desperation here? Well, folks, Kamala Harris has received devastating news from CNN, and CNN can no longer hide this anymore from the American people. In fact, we've actually heard from Harry Enton from CNN. Horrible news. This is probably the worst news that Kamala Harris could have possibly received just before the 2024 presidential election. And this could very well be perceived as basically CNN saying Donald Trump could win this election in a landslide victory in only a couple of weeks. I want you guys to listen to what CNN's Harry Enton basically uncovers and unveils about the truth behind the polls and the data that we are seeing now about Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. And it's astounding, guys. Watch.
Eternal question, why some Democrats worry? Now, it's a trope. A lot of people will say they're always worried. But I will say, if you've been paying attention to social media or reporting on CNN, Democrats seem particularly worried now. Why? One man, as we say, has the answer. CNN's chief senior data reporter, Harry Enton, is here. So, why?
Why? What is with all of this bedwetting among Democrats? Maybe it's an eternal problem, but let's take a look here. These are, of course, the Great Lake battleground states, the states we've been focusing in on. If Kamala Harris wins these three, she most likely gets to 270 electoral votes. Take a look 3 weeks ago. Harris was ahead by 2 in Pennsylvania, 2 in Wisconsin, 3 in Michigan. Look at where we are today. The race is even tighter. even tighter than it was. Today, it's a 1-point advantage in Pennsylvania, 1 in Wisconsin, 1 in Michigan. Look, that's limited movement, but in a year in which this race has been so static, if we're talking 1-point movement, 1-point movement, 2-point movements, and we see movements in all three, this is the type of thing that, at least in the public polling, makes Democrats worried. And I think that the public polling in this case is reflected in some of that internal polling, some of that reporting that suggests that these Great Lake battleground states have certainly tightened a lot, where at this point they are way too close to call.
It is what you call a trend.
It is
when
a
you
trend.
See something like this over several states. When you compare
Now, I just want to add a little bit color here, okay, guys? 3 weeks ago, they're saying 3 weeks ago, Kamala Harris had a 2-point lead, 2-point lead, 3-point lead. We're talking about Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, right? Today, the lead, according to CNN, is 1-point lead across these 3 swing states. Now, what we've seen traditionally is that these polls they're typically not 100% accurate, in that Donald Trump is typically doing better than what these reports and polls are saying. So what this means is, number one, Donald Trump is moving ahead. This is 3 weeks ago. Kamala Harris has lost footing. She's lost ground. She's losing 1 point in Pennsylvania. She's losing 1 point from 3 weeks ago to today in Wisconsin, and she's lost 2 points in the polls in Michigan compared to 3 weeks ago compared to today. So this could very well mean that Donald Trump is actually winning at this point, since these polls typically, when you look historically, these polls they're lacking on the Donald Trump statistics. In other words, usually usually Donald Trump is about 3, maybe even 4 points higher than what the polls actually report. But even with that aside, we can clearly see that as the weeks go by, Kamala Harris's poll performance continues to get worse.
Compare this to 4 years ago. What does it look like?
Yeah, so let's take a look, and we're going to look at an average across these 3 states, right? Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, an average on October 11th. What do you see? Well, if you look 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton was way out in front in an average of these 3. She was up by 8.
And she still lost.
Joe Biden was up by an
And she still lost. Look, Hillary Clinton was up by 8 points in 2016, and she still lost to Donald Trump back then. So keep that in mind.
average of 7 points across these 3 Great Lake battleground states. You come today, it's just a 1-point advantage for Kamala Harris across these 3 Great Lake battleground states. So Kamala Harris, at least in the polling, is doing considerably worse than Biden or Clinton. And of course, Clinton lost in all 3 of these states, and Joe Biden barely won in all 3 of these states. So when you see Harris up by just a point across these 3, I think that this is really the type of thing that gets Democrats really to worry, John, because the simple fact is Kamala Harris is doing considerably worse than either Biden or Clinton was.
Yeah, at this number, when you start.
Wow, this is the kind of news that really has Democrats worried, and this is what they don't want you guys to hear about. I'm honestly really impressed / surprised that CNN is revealing this data here.